Hello, everyone, and we have a very special bonus episode of Locked On Canadiens for you this week. Laura and I are joined by another WHL prospect, the Victoria Royals defenseman, Wyatt Wilson. We're going to talk about his path to draft eligibility and everything else coming up in today's show.
You're Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special bonus episode of Locked On Canadiens. I am one of your hosts. I am Scott Matlin. As always, I am joined by the active stick, Laura Saba, and we have another very special guest this week. Joining us tonight for recording is Wyatt Wilson of the Victoria Royals of the Western Hockey League. And Wyatt, thank you so much for making the time for us. We know hockey's a busy year-round kind of thing, and we really appreciate you making the time to sit down and chat with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
I guess the biggest thing, and we're just going to knock this off. We want to have some fun. We have some other fun questions, for the second half of the show here. But for those who don't know, who is Wyatt Wilson? How would you describe yourself as a hockey player? And tell us a little bit about your path from, playing, or how you got into hockey and, made your way into the WHL this season.
Yeah, so I'll talk about what kind of hockey player I am first, but I kind of look at myself as a two-way, big physical defenseman. It's hard to come across, big guys that play physical and, lay big hits and change the momentum of the game. So I feel like I'm one of those guys and use it to mine and my team's advantage. But I grew up playing minor hockey in Swift Current. It's a bit of a weird path. So I ended up playing 3 years minor hockey here and then ended up moving out to Abbotsford, BC to play with the Yale Lions. I played there my Bantam second year on prep and then midget first year. And then I ended up moving back to Saskatchewan and playing in Moose Jaw. It's about an hour and a half from my hometown. Played there, and this last year I ended up playing with the Victoria Royals. So I got to play with my brother, which was a pretty cool opportunity. Took advantage of that.
How would you describe the jump, going from AAA up to the Western Hockey League? Because looking across the CHL, each league is known for certain things, and the Western Hockey League is known as a tough physical league, very hard hitting, and it can be rough and tumble. How did you handle that adjustment going up that step there and playing this year in Victoria? Yeah,
it was definitely a big jump. I mean, we have a pretty good midget AAA league back home here, so that prepared me pretty good. It's a pretty rough physical league, just like the Dubs. So it wasn't too bad of a jump. The one thing I noticed is guys make decisions at way faster paces. So,
Laura, do you have any questions?
I was going to say I had a lot of questions. So one of the things that we want to know, and I think a lot of people, is like, how do you go from, you just play hockey, you're a Western Canadian boy, you're just playing hockey, right? How do you go from that to realizing, hey, you know what? I might have a shot. NHL teams might come and look at me. I might have a shot to be drafted. Like, when do you realize that? And when do you realize, all right, I got to really change the way that I work and prepare, and sort of just change the work that I do, essentially?
Yeah. So, midget second year, it really hit me. I started to get a lot of interest, whether it was, WHL teams or junior A teams, even at some NCAA teams at that point. I wasn't signed, but it's just, you have to, once you realize it's like, okay, I need to start changing habits. I need to be in the gym 6 out of 7 days of the week and have an off day. And, you need to track your eating, and there's a lot to it for sure.
And that is why I'm not eligible to be drafted by the. I'm not working out 6 out of 7 days in a week. I'm good for 4.
I'm good for 3 if walking the dog counts, and also I'm not draft eligible because I am 31 years old. So, you talk about how you're a two-way defense and you're a big physical guy. You love to lay the body. Is there current players you kind of model your game after that you try and fit in that mold, or are you I am Wyatt Wilson. I am who I am. I am not a clone of somebody else when I play out there.
Yeah. Not that I'm a clone of someone else, but there's three players I kind of model my game after. Seth Jones, he's super big frame. He makes a really good first pass and defends pretty well. And then Victor Hedman, another guy, he skates really, really well. His first few strides are super good. That's something I've been working on, is my skating a ton. I feel like that's improved a lot. And then the last guy is Mark Giordano. Not just what he does on the ice, but I mean off the ice. He's always at charity events or out in the community, helping out and giving back. And I feel like that's a huge part of the game nowadays.
And anyone who listens to this podcast knows that Victor Hedman is my favorite defenseman right now, currently playing in the league. So one of the things that I also did want to ask is a little bit sort of, do you, I don't know, because when you talk to people who work in hockey, or you're hoping to work in hockey technically, their childhood team is one, and then as they get more and more into the game, they're just kind of like, oh, I like all the teams, or I'll just watch all the teams. Do you have a childhood team that you really gravitate towards, or still do, maybe is still a favorite team right now?
Yeah. As a child, everybody because of Crosby, but one team I really loving was Chicago. Patrick, I'm a defenseman, but Patrick Kane was my favorite player growing up. He's so crafty and skilling. He's so much fun to watch. Even Jonathan Toews too. So,
and there's the Seth Jones connection.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's there now too. That's got to be huge for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Before we jump into our first ad break here, what do you consider your strength? You talk about your physicality and your ability to that. Is there anything else that you think you definitely thrive at, that if you were, on a soapbox selling yourself to a team, be like, this is what I am best at, what would you kind of dial yourself in at there?
Yeah, I think obviously my physicality is a big one. I think I have a pretty good shot, finding lanes from the blue line and trying to get pucks through. And then I think my vision is really good. I think I see the ice and think the game really, really well. And that's one of my stronger ones for sure.
We do love in the modern NHL a big defenseman who likes to skate, likes to hit, and has great vision. It's a total package. It sounds like the ultimate appeal. And when we come back in our next segment, we're going to talk, a little bit more fun, some nicknames, some other, other fun stuff. We'll figure it out as we go here on Locked On Canadiens. That's all coming up next. But first, today's bonus episode is brought to you by the folks at BetOnline.net, who is your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. Get all the latest sports development, league reviews, including this year's NHL Stanley Cup Finals, Major League Baseball. You can bet on futures like in the NFL, the NHL Draft, and so much else. You can get news on boxing, MMA, and golf. All your scores, podcasts, news, everything at betonline.net. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. We are back here, Locked On Canadiens, joined by Wyatt Wilson of the Victoria Royals of the Western Hockey League. And we got to ask, Laura and I both have a fascination with hockey nicknames because sometimes they're extremely, creative, and sometimes they are what we expect them. What do they call you besides, Wyatt or Wilson or whatever? What do they call you? What do your teammates and coaches call you in practice or during games or anything like that?
It's not too crazy, nothing wild, but one I get a lot is Willie, and then Moose kind of started in midget triple A. One of my good buddies started calling me that just because of my frame and size, I guess. But yeah, so not too wild, but.
And you mentioned one of the players you like to model yourself after is Mark Giordano, not only because of the way he plays, but the work he does off the ice. And we talked with Andy a little bit, and it mentions that you have a high priority on inclusiveness and doing stuff off the ice and all that other stuff. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that and, what that means to you as a player and like a role model, in the community for kids who come to these games and, just grow up watching hockey and loving it?
Yeah. It all actually started back in middle school. Me and a couple buddies, we were always, hanging out with kids and helping out whenever they need it. And then recently I was just at the track doing a track meet with my middle school, and it was good to see some, familiar faces, some of my old teachers, and they were happy to see me. And then about a week ago, I actually ran my breast cancer awareness jersey up to Regina. My cousin just got through breast cancer, so she's super, super happy to have that. It makes a guy feel good when you do that type of stuff.
We love that.
Yeah. And definitely, obviously, it's good news to hear. But I think one of the things is that you can't really, especially now with social media and so much access that you have to players, like you can't just go to the ice, do your job, and then walk away, right? Like you do have to kind of model for the community. And I know, particularly in Montreal, that is a huge deal, right? Whether it's with the children's hospitals or whether it's, other charity initiatives and things like that players take on. So is there something in particular that, let's say you get drafted, draft day comes around, you make it to the NHL, you become one of those guys, like, is there a pet cause or something in particular that you care about that you'd like to raise awareness or give your time to or money to even?
There's not one I could choose. If there was one, actually, I'd probably do breast cancer, obviously. I know a couple people, and like I said, recently, my cousin just went through it. So, that's something definitely I would like to give back to. So
I feel like that's so impressive. Like you're growing up, you're going through your middle school and high school, and you're working your way into one of the top junior leagues in the world. And then you've got NHL attention coming in that into your draft year, and you still always find time to stay true to yourself. I feel like that speaks a lot to having great character. And it's one thing to be a great hockey player and, a physical specimen. And it's another to also have that, the character and the upstandingness in the community. And I feel like that would be a huge bonus for a lot of teams. Teams love that. Fans love that. It feels like it's a really good way to quickly meld yourself with the community there. And I have to say that's really impressive. As someone whose family has had, people go through battling cancer and everything, to know that there are people out there that want to make this time, not because they have to, but because they want to. That's really important. And I really do appreciate knowing that there are people like that in the sport of hockey who want to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Appreciate it.
Now to hop off of that for a second, we talked about players.
We're going to take a sharp turn.
I was going to say, we're going to take a sharp turn here, as we do so often on this show. We talked about players you model yourself after, but we've talked to other people, and players in different generations grew up watching and idolizing other players. Who did you grow up idolizing, that made you want to get in and play hockey as a kid?
I think this is the answer for a lot of kids my age, but Sidney Crosby. I mean, watching that guy, kind of blossom as a player as he grew up, and how talented he was. It was like, man, I want to be this guy one day. So defenseman version, I guess. But so he was a guy I watched, a ton growing up, just like, every other kid. So.
Do you know what's really interesting is that, like, a lot of players in different positions have said that. It's always Sidney Crosby, and it's definitely, you can tell. And every time somebody says that, something like that, Scott and I crumble of old age in the corner.
I was going to say, we've talked to people. It's like, I grew up watching, Pavel Bure or Mike Modano or Pavel Datsyuk. And then it's like, Sidney Crosby was the guy I watched growing up, and I just go, oh my God. I was at the Combine a couple years ago, and it was the year the Canadiens drafted Jesperi Kotkaniemi. He's like, yeah, I grew up watching Yoel Armia and, wanting to be like him. And I went, oh my God, these are children that we're talking to. And it's like, I get it, it's a different draft year, and that the, later birthdays, but it hits you in that moment that you listen back afterwards and you go, oh, wow, in different generations, but Crosby transcends that. I feel like you could say that for anyone, including, your draft class too.
Yeah.
I think, so a couple of things that I wanted to ask is that one thing that I've noticed about a lot of hockey players who end up, sort of making the show is that when they were kids, they played other sports as well. It wasn't just hockey. Are there any other sports that you play or you enjoy watching as well?
Going through middle school, I played basketball, volleyball, badminton. I kind of did it all. I was never into baseball too much. I played a year or two of football, but at a certain age, it's kind of like, you got to pick one or the other. So I ended up sticking with hockey, and it's working out pretty well. So
yeah, it seems to be paying off. Scott, you were about to say something.
I was going to say, hockey players are a superstitious bunch. And, what are your routines or your superstitions on game day? Do you have any at all? I know we've talked to a goalie who, same suit, no socks, this, that. Other goalies are completely different than that. Do you have your own superstitions, or you just kind of, you just kind of go with the flow and whatever happens, happens, regardless of what tie you wear or what, pair of underwear you wear to the game or something like that?
And is it as important to defensemen as goalies? That's what I'm always curious about, because like goalies kind of get a reputation for being weird, but I feel like in sports in general, every position, every sport, there's definitely like a bit of rigidity on that front.
Yeah. There's a couple things I do. I mean, I try to stick to the same suit as much as I can, but if things aren't working out, obviously, I like to change it up and try something different. But one thing I do is I get to the rink pretty early. I'm usually the first guy there. It's about 3.5 hours before the game. Just kind of think about the game. I like to be loose before the games. I'm not a guy that I'm dialed in when the time comes, but I like to kind of joke around and and then I like to sit on the bench about 25 minutes before the game starts and just kind of visualizing what I'm going to do out there and things I need to do to be the best I can.
I just thought of something as we're going through this. The WHL is known for the teddy bear toss game. Have you gotten to play? Was there a teddy bear toss in Victoria this year?
Yeah, there was actually. I happened to be injured. I went through a pretty bad facial fracture. I broke my orbital bone and then shattered my cheek in like 8 places. So I was out for that one, but I was up in the stands. I actually threw a couple teddy bears down, I think. So kind of on a run teddy bear toss.
I've never gotten to experience it, and I truly want to. Like, what's it like watching just a hail of teddy bears fly out of the rafters in that? Like, it feels like it's got to be a ton of fun to watch happen.
It's unbelievable. It is crazy. I mean, it was a really good game too against, I think it was Tri-Cities, but it's wild. And then, you get pictures after with all the teddy bears, and it's a pretty cool experience. Hopefully next year I'm on the ice for it, but
that's super fun.
Yeah. I guess one last question. I know that the draft is around the corner here, and everyone wants to make the NHL. Is there somewhere that before your hockey career is done, when you hang up your skates for the last time, is there one place for sure that you want to see yourself suit up for at least, even if it's just one game?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'd be pretty grateful to go to any team. All I ask for is just, an opportunity to prove myself. And I think that's what, a lot of kids ask for. I mean, you can't ask for much when it's the NHL. I mean, I'm happy on any team. So.
Well, good luck. Oh, one final thing is, how are you planning to prepare for, let's say, July 8th? I keep getting this date wrong. It's thrown me off that it's not a Friday, Saturday. It's a Thursday, Friday. So, are you going to be the person that completely ignores everything? Are you going to be sitting on the computer refreshing? Are you going to be just trying to, block it out? What's going to be your routine for that day?
Yeah. I think me and the family are going to head out to the lake and, hopefully do a little bit of surfing, and then we'll watch a bit of the draft. I don't want to get too focused on that, because I mean, even if something does happen where I don't end up going and I just get a camp invite, I mean, that's all I ask for, is just to prove myself, like I said before. But yeah, I'm not going to get too into it. I mean, I don't want to stress myself out, so just kind of stay calm and sit back and see what unfolds. So,
well, we wish you luck.
Yes, good luck. And obviously we'll be watching on draft day. We'll hopefully be there. And if we hear your name called, we can go, hey, that guy was on our show, and therefore he is a friend of the show now, and we can, do that. So thank you so much for making the time for us today. We know obviously there's a lot going on. Luckily, Mountain Time, it's still early enough there that you still have the rest of the evening ahead of you there. But seriously, thank you so much for joining the show and making some time for us today.
Yeah, thanks again, guys. I appreciate it a ton, and thanks for having me on.
As always, you can follow the show at @LO_Canadiens on Twitter, Locked On Canadiens on YouTube. If you are a visual person, like many of us are, you can follow myself at Scott Metla. You can follow Laura at The Active Stick. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening. Wyatt, thank you again for joining us. We will see you all next time.